Welcome back to another episode of the Archives with Adam and Fab. Today we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. I'm telling you, it is an honor to get to chat with this gentleman. He's been a huge part of my parents' generation, and we get to hear all the stories growing up. But we have none other than the man himself, Guy Gilchrist.
Hi, Ed.
Guy,
How are you?
hey, I'm not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a wonderful day.
It is. It's really hot over here, and it's only 8:26. I mean, we were pushing 90 yesterday, but it was a dry heat.
Yeah, there's a lot of heat going through everywhere. A lot of people are having difficulties.
Oh yeah, it's tough. So, Guy is an American writer and artist as well as a musician. I actually didn't know that part, Guy, until I looked at some of your social medias, your website as well, and I didn't know you do music as well.
I do.
So you are also best.
Thanks for starting the research. I appreciate that. You have no
Of
idea. People say, "Hey, can you be on my podcast?" And then they go, "Okay, so who are you?" And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, you didn't even go to Google."
Oh man, no, I very familiar with who you are. I just didn't know you were a musician. So,
Well, a lot of musicians would question that as well.
you want to chat about that part?
I've been living here in Nashville now for 17 years. Brought down here. I absolutely love it here, and I have many, many friends here. But yeah, I've been writing and recording music since about 1979. And if anybody wants to go hear my music, you can go see a few videos on the website, download some stuff. But it's everywhere. It's on, Spotify and every single place that you could possibly just look me up.
There we go. There we go. And you live in Nashville now, don't you?
That's correct.
Okay, so the music city. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Truly is.
I definitely want to get out there sometime. I do love country music, and I know it's huge, huge in Tennessee. So I'll have to make a trip out there one day.
There's every kind of music. Yeah, country, there's everything. There's, Willie Nelson calls Nashville the store. I'm mostly a songwriter. Yes, I perform, mainly my own songs. Had a band for years that did covers and stuff just for fun. But yeah, this is the place that everyone from every genre of music, the entire musical universe, comes to promote, market, and sell their songs, and to get some of the greatest studio musicians and touring musicians in the entire world. There is probably not a rock band out there that doesn't have somebody that has a Nashville tie.
There we go. So for you, I mean, there's you're a cartoonist. You've done many things in regards to drawing and things like that. So at various times in the 90s and 80s and 90s, you managed the publishing or merchandising for such licenses as Pink Panther, TMNT, Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes. I mean, the list goes on.
Right.
What got you into cartoons?
It's all I've ever done, really, is tell stories. And I've never not been a cartoonist. I came out of the womb as a cartoonist. I found out very, very early that I could draw something, make something out of nothing, and make somebody happy. And that is still my my love, my joy, my goal. It's my happiness is making other people happy.
No, and that
You
okay.
left a big one when you were talking about. Well, I guess you're talking about like merchandising, but yes, all of those different characters, the different universes that you mentioned, the Ninja Turtles, Tom and Jerry, Pink Panther, Looney Tunes, Nancy, all of those characters, they're in separate universes, and the stories of how I got involved with each are obviously different. What did I do with each? It's different. If you understand what a creative director is, what a licensing director is, an art director is, I was, one or more with all of those universes. Um, I lived in Connecticut and worked in New York for the most part, sometimes going out to LA, usually with Warner Brothers. But at my home base in my big studio, where I had everybody working with me, was in Connecticut. And so all of those characters came from personal relationships that I had with various people over many, many, many years. And they believed in me and believed that I could do the job of babysitting these icons, sometimes creating these icons, and bringing joy to the world that way.
And I think it's wonderful. I mean, I've done some drawings and stuff, growing up. As a kid, we all get introduced to it somehow, right? Whether it's growing up and going to school. For me, my brother also was he was really into drawing, and he just kind of just stopped doing it. But I mean, he had a talent, and that's a way to express yourself.
It is.
If,
It is. Art should be in everybody's life. Everybody starts out, singing and drawing and dancing and being very, uninhibited and showing their emotions in these ways when we're children.
mhm,
And and then there are the very fortunate few that take that expression of love and joy and happiness and bring it out into the world. And then there are the very few that make a good living at it, or even a living at all. Hmm.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, I'm pretty creative. I like to think everything that we've got going on for our podcast to the background that you see. I mean, it's all taking creativity. I feel like it's art somehow, some way, but that's just me personally. I mean, I've done everything for our channels to make it stick out and whatnot. So
Sure. Huh?
yeah,
That's marketing and design. Yeah.
exactly.
We
Never
all
went to school
create,
for it.
everyone has creativity.
Exactly.
Whether you use it or not, that's up to you. But everyone is creative, and everyone has an opportunity to, to express themselves. I find that usually when you become creative, if you're not a creative, a professional creative, there's a big difference. But but every time you want to make somebody happy, or every time you want to have a voice and express yourself, then no matter who you are, whether it's cooking or whatever it is, we find a way into our creative hearts.
That's true. That's true. I mean, everybody's thinking a step ahead in most cases when it comes to that, right? They want to make sure, again, like for instance, my girlfriend, she'll make a little surprise gift for me or something, and it's all about that thought, right? And going in and being creative, but also trying to make sure I'm happy. So that's where, like you said, being artistic and things like that is all about trying to make others happy. So before coming a cartoonist, were there any things that you had interest in? I know you said coming out the womb, you were pretty much into, art,
Was Yeah,
but
I was a cartoon. I wanted to be a cartoonist. You mean did I have other jobs? That was.
like any other skills, things that you were into, like any sports
Oh
or.
yeah, sure. Sure. I was a very good baseball player, and uh, a really good baseball player. I loved
Mhm,
baseball. I'm a huge Red Sox fan growing up in Connecticut. Ted
there you go.
Williams, Ted Williams was my favorite player. Okay, here you go. So, name a better hitter than Ted Williams. Trick question. Okay, so yeah, I was really into baseball. I still am. I loved it. I don't play anymore at 66 years old. I got a glove, and I got bats, and I got some baseballs, and me and my friends might, light toss, in a field or something like that. But I don't play ball anymore. But yes, baseball, the martial arts, golf. As far as so, those would be the sports that I played or participated in. And in regard to other hobbies, like fishing, I guess. But I would basically, when I was a dad, I did whatever the kids were into. Um, and honestly, I'm not a big hobby guy. I guess the only thing I could really think of that would really be a hobby, uh, I don't know. Well, I guess collecting records, might be a hobby. I've always collected records, um, but my life is very full, and uh, in regard to other hobbies and interests and stuff, I'm a spiritual guy. I do a lot of prayer and meditation. I've been on a spiritual journey my entire life. I'm interested in people, so I do a ton of reading. Um, and whenever possible, I mean, these days now, my workouts are really, things that anyone can do any day. I feel like I'm in pretty great shape, for a 66-year-old. And a lot of it is because I do all those old man things that you guys laugh at, like, pull ups and walking, lots and lots of walking, but when you're in a sedentary job, such as I have, where it's my back and my neck and my arm, that, and I'm sitting all the time. It's a solitary job. I've always been extremely aware that we have to, even if we're totally into something, you got to get up and you got to at least walk around, and you got to get it together. Because if you don't, you're not going to be the best you. You got to be physical. A lot of people that I meet that are artists um, tend to not not do physical things. They're doing this all the time. They're either got screen time or they're playing, games like this and everything. And that might be fine for your mind, and it might be a good way to communicate. But remember, we've got this incredible gift, right? Of a body, and that's connected to our mind and connected to our spirit. And so, we've got to exercise all of that.
That's true. That's true. And I know I need to work on that myself. So,
Okay. We all do.
Of course, of course. And my hat's off to you as well. I know you said you are a Red Sox fan. I have a love for the Red Sox as well, even though I got my Mariners gear on.
I was
my mom's.
Yeah, I was just in Seattle.
You were at Unlock the Con
Right.
at Barry Weaver's event.
Yeah.
And that's something I wanted to chat with you about a little bit later on down this
Yeah.
episode. But
I really
yes,
enjoyed going. I really enjoyed going up to Space Needle with Mary, my fiance. That was really cool. I hadn't
was
been
it
to
your first
Seattle.
time?
Yes, I hadn't been. Not my first time to Seattle, but the last time I was in Seattle, you weren't born.
Oh man.
For that. So anyway, you said you want to talk about that down the line. So what do you want to talk about now?
Yeah. So, what about cartooning is special to you? I believe you kind of touched on that a little bit, but what about it is really
Yeah,
special to you?
I really have touched on that. That's exactly what's special to me. It speaks to everything
Okay.
in the world, and it's my incredible joy to do it. I tell stories. Um, I was never one of those guys that, even as a little kid,
Mm.
would just draw the head of Donald Duck or something. I would, learn how to draw Donald Duck, or my mom would teach me. She was a good artist. I would learn how to draw the character, but then I would also, even by just drawing a floor at first, put them
Mm.
somewhere. Put them somewhere. Put them in the world, and because the stories. of the cartoons are really what you love. I mean, you see this T-shirt, and you go, "I love him." I love,
Yeah.
you know, but who is Kermit, and where does Kermit live, and what does he do, and where does he go? All of that stuff when you see this. All of that's in there. And so cartooning is a wonderful way to tell stories. If you get real good at it, sometimes you don't even you can even find ways to tell a story. There's a uh, with no words. In pantomime. Uh,
Mm.
and so that goes across everywhere. That's why in the teens and 20s and everything, when there were silent movies, no sound, why Charlie Chaplin and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit were so popular, and Felix the Cat, because you can watch Charlie Chaplin, you can watch Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, all the great silent comedians, and what they're doing, their plights, their perils are universal. They're everyman. And so are those cartoon characters, and many of these cartoon characters. I have several, pantomime characters, Tom and Jerry, that I worked on for a long time, and Pink Panther that you mentioned as well.
Mhm.
Uh, and if you travel around the world, everyone knows these characters.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. And I never really thought about Charlie Chaplin and Felix the Cat being exactly like you said. I mean, I've always known about them, but never really took it into consideration. So I really appreciate you opening my mind on that.
Hmm.
So, is there anything that you wish you could have worked on, like a past project that you didn't get the opportunity, or something that you turned down?
Uh, there's nothing that I turned down that I wished that I hadn't turned down. There were a lot of things I did turn down, but
Mm,
I guess maybe, but I had good reason.
mm,
I had good reason. The only thing that people think I did that I didn't work on was Animaniacs, and I couldn't work on Animaniacs. I had too many other things going at the time. I was uh, I art directed some stuff, some merchant stuff for Animaniacs, but I didn't really work on it. But I was Warner Brothers art director, and at that time, and worked on Tiny Toons and Looney Tunes and stuff, and Animaniacs happening sideways of that, at the same time. Uh, but I honestly just didn't have the time, to work on it. I had way too many projects going, and I put my heart into everything. And as far as characters that I never worked on, that I would like to work on, the only characters that really would have been, and this comes from my childhood, is I loved Popeye, so possibly working on him. Mighty Mouse, I loved as a little boy, and Woody Woodpecker, all of
okay.
Lance's characters, because Walter, I don't know if you've gone and read and done, any research or anything, but Walter Lance was very, very important to me in my life and my met. So hopefully you know about that. Um, so, uh, even at one point, I had when I was finished up with Nancy, doing Nancy. Do you know that I did the comic strip Nancy?
You did, yes, sir. Yep.
Oh, so I did that for 23 years, and I ended because I had some medical issues. I was paralyzed,
Man.
and I had to have an operation. So anyway, after all that went down, I briefly thought about, knocking on Universal's door and saying, you know, hi, I'd like to, you know, come in and talk to you about possibly being the creative director, for Woody Woodpecker and Chili Willy, etc. Um, but, but then I really thought about it and said, gosh, do you really want to be responsible again for 1,000 drawings and, speaking with a network that's worldwide network and all of that sort of thing? Or is this just something that you're, taking from your childhood and saying, oh, I could have gone that direction? And, but anyway, I love Woody Woodpecker. And that would have been a character that, that I would have taken on. However, I got to work on so many incredible things that touch so many people's lives. My life has been so incredibly full. Jim, changed everything, and Walter before him. And so I can't imagine my life being more full than it has been.
You are a very busy man. I tell you, when we were trying to schedule this, we had to figure out your schedule because you were so booked up, and then having to work around mine. So, I mean, I'm glad we're getting this going, but I'm glad you're also working. It's very important to be doing obviously all of that, right? So how much time does it take into drawings and doing comic strips and
What
making
do you
books?
mean? What do you mean? How much take to do?
Yeah,
You mean?
yeah. So how long does it take to do a drawing?
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
60, okay, okay. I got your answer. 66 years.
Okay, so you're
Okay,
pretty consistent, and I mean, you.
66 years. Okay,
Uh,
that's how long it takes to do the drawings I do.
okay.
Um, you know, that question is posed to me all the time, and you always get the same answer. However old I, why do you think I say that?
Because that's how much time it's taken to perfect your craft. I would say. I
Yes,
mean, every
that's
day.
exactly right. And that's exactly right. Somebody told me I've drawn 250,000 drawings. I don't know if that's true. It might be. I have no idea. I don't count.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, a million hours, of
Mhm.
drawing, and you keep saying drawing, and yeah, that's part of it. But we're
Mhm.
telling a story,
Mhm.
and sometimes I'm writing that story, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm telling the story. Sometimes I'm co-writing. I'm always co-writing it because even if
Okay.
the idea that's posed to me, and even the scripts, we have to make those characters act and move and all of that. And so this is a continuous, journey. And drawing and inking uh, they are practices, and you can get very, very anyone. I hear all the time, I wish I could draw as well as you, and I will tell you could, and you could draw better than me. Just draw as much as me, and find the people that are better than you, learn from them, um, and stick to it. Walter Lance told me when I was 10 years old, if you keep on practicing and you never ever quit, you have a lot of talent, you are going to be a successful cartoonist. And that's what I tell people. um, you're you're saying, like, how long does it take you to do a comic strip? How long does it take you to do drawing? It it takes me, comic strips are totally different. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I want you to think about something. You're drawing 365 comic strips a year, not just drawing them, but you're creating them, you're writing them, and you're inking them. Okay. And
Mhm.
that's not like, and so so when you say, like, oh, I feel bad today, oh, I can't do it today, or something, um, nothing is perfect, and you strive for perfection, but you strive for perfection in your thought and in your practice. When it comes to deadlines, which is why I've been so popular over my 50 years since I started with Disney, um, is because I get things done on time. And I want you to think about something. Could you do 365 comics a year for 5.5 years. Could you do that?
Oh, yeah, if you put your mind to it, right?
Really? Yeah. Okay. But what if you're getting a divorce? Or what if your mom dies? Or what if you break a leg?
It's a good question. You got to time
Exactly.
manage, right?
So
You got to
because I want you to think about over the last 6 months, different
hmm
things that stopped you from doing everything that you were planning on doing, right? Now,
hmm
imagine that if you don't do it, there's a big hole in the newspaper, because you
Okay.
get it done. And so, I don't want to be dark on a light subject, but um, it's something that I would always think about. How long does that take? How long does that take? That's why I say it takes 66 years, because there's a commitment that unless you do the sort of things that I do, like that you're on a deadline for 40 years
hmm
of various things, you have no idea. You have no idea. And so we don't search for, perfection. You can't say, "Oh, I'll come back to that tomorrow. I'll work on that for 2 days." But then there are paintings that you might, linger over, for months or something, coming back.
hmm
So, you can't group things together, and it's really a matter of when you're a professional artist, the main thing is, do you draw well, and are you getting it done on time, and are you representing this universe and these characters properly, and are you able to do that on a consistent basis? That's what all of this is about.
Okay.
People bring me, you know, characters all the time and show me stuff and everything. And I say, now, could you do that 300 times? Like, well, why would I? I said, well, why wouldn't you? You know, uh,
hmm
in order for you to uh, to work on the Tom and Jerry television show, that's a minimum, you know, of how many times you're going to draw these characters. You have to be in love with the characters, and the characters have to be alive to you. Um, and it becomes a part of your life. When you were talking to me about hobbies, I was laughing and stuff.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, you have to have hobbies to
hmm
uh, to, to complete yourself and keep you physical and keep you mentally and spiritually, aware and there and together. Um, but the commitments that we make uh, as as designers and writers is a very heavy duty thing.
Seems like a lot that definitely goes into it. So again, my hats off to you. I mean, you've been doing it for 66 years, right? So a long
Well, I've
time.
been
Well,
alive
not
for 60.
66. Yes.
If I had a job out of the womb, that'd be cool.
That would be awesome. Yes. So you've been doing it for a long time. That's what I
A
meant to
long
say.
time, right?
So how much like supplies do you go through? Like, cause you could see on TV, in the shows and stuff, they're all drawing and writing, they're crumbling up paper, throwing it away. Is it like that?
Yeah.
It is. How much paper and,
I I I,
utensils?
I don't know. I spend
It's a
thousands
lot.
of dollars a year on supplies.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That is a lot.
yeah.
And you take breaks
But
in
I
between, I
draw.
would
I
assume.
draw. Yes, I'm a working professional.
There you
It's
go.
part of the game. Uh-huh.
For sure, for sure. Do you ever get like a writer's block? Just like writers they write and then they're like, "Oh man, I'm just like stumped right now." Does that ever happen to you?
Um. It used to a long time ago. It happens to everybody. Uh. But uh. But everybody has magic tricks. To
hmm
get through it.
For
Um.
sure.
Uh, there's a one if people are listening to this and they would like to find out more about writer's block, I will suggest getting the book called The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron. It's a very, very famous book. It's been around almost as long as I have. and it shares many different things to to keep you creative. For me, um, I did comic strips for 40 years, on and off, uh, and so you're writing not 365 a year. You're writing about 2,000 a year, and then figuring out which ones work. So I mostly I would lean on the fact that I hadn't missed a deadline in this many years, and so why would I miss one today?
Mhm.
And somehow or other, I would find it within the character, um, to do something. But yes, I think really the temporary writer's block comes from when you're in the middle of a writing project. For instance, you're working on an arc. It's at the beginning there. You get excited about what you're going to write about, the subject matter. And then you get blocks along the way. How am I going to merge this sequence with this sequence? What's this person like? What does this person say? I don't like the ending. I'm not sure how to connect this scene to this scene. There are many kinds of blocks. And yes, I certainly do get writer's block.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's insane. Yeah, no, that's there's a lot that goes into it. I can't even fathom it. So um yeah, so previously we talked about you coming here to Seattle and you did the you went to Unlock the Con. So shout out to Barry. He was actually my first guest on my first season. And so you were doing here a signing. You did like a little luncheon with the fans.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Of course.
Okay. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Barry and his wife are they're just incredible. They treated Mary and I just so incredibly well. They're huge Muppet fans. They're huge Turtle fans.
Hmm.
Well, they're huge me fans. They had a couple dozen me Funkos of me made.
Hmm.
Um, I've never been treated better. I mean, it was just an absolutely lovely time. Yes, I did a breakfast draw along thing. We had a nice group of people that were there, drawing along with me. I was teaching them, how to draw the character that they wanted to draw, and we just had an incredible time. Uh, you always remember the way that you're treated, um, and I'll certainly never forget being in Seattle. They were just lovely.
Yeah, Barry and Ashley are wonderful people. I mean, he's
Yeah.
backed my whole podcast thing up, and I told him I was doing this episode with you, and I know he was really happy about it. So,
Well,
um,
hey, you guys are the best. I love you guys.
that's
Thanks for
awesome.
the limo. You guys rocked. We had such a good time. The dinner, everything, and just treated us amazingly well. And I absolutely adore them.
Definitely thankful for them. While you were there, you actually did some drawings on Funko Pops as well for people
Sure.
that
Uh
brought
huh.
in.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I tell you the quality that comes out on them, but you probably seen a good couple hundred people that day, right?
Oh,
But
sure.
I
Uh
mean,
huh.
you got them cranked out really fast, and I mean, just really great quality. So
Well,
um,
yeah, yeah. I like doing.
definitely. Definitely. And then you also did the drawings on the pizza boxes for the Ninja Turtles that were coming in, Rob
Oh, that's
Paulson,
right.
all of
Yeah.
them. You did all the drawings on the pizza boxes. I thought
Yeah.
that was,
Good pals. The rest of the 87 turtles. Yes.
yep,
Yes, I
yep.
did. Yeah,
There
they
you go.
piled up some pizza boxes for me to do in the downtime. There was no downtime. Um, but anyway, I drew all the turtles, and drew, Renee,
Mm.
April O'Neil, and all of that. And then Townsend and Renee, many people like were tagging me, Barry. They were all going, Cam was like, hey, hi, you know.
Yeah.
And So yeah, it was. So I did all that stuff, and then when everybody came in, And it's funny because about a month or so before, all five, all the people I mentioned, plus Rob, of course, and so we all got together in Texas in a town called New Braunfels at Hill Country Comic Con. So it was
Okay.
myself and the five, and we had an incredible dinner together. And yeah, these reunions are incredible. Really, really fun for me.
Definitely. No, it's awesome. And doing this podcast, I've met so many people, right? And they share so many stories about reunions and things like that. Or I've even heard from people that haven't even got to really meet the cast for like a show that they've been on. So you hear so many different things, but yeah, it sounds like you had a great time, and hopefully you come back out again. So Barry, Ashley, if you guys are seeing this, bring Guy back out. He had a great time. um, so I know you mentioned that you obviously do music and things like that. If you ever get the chance while you're back out here, we do have the Experience Music Project, or the I think they call it the Museum of Pop Culture now, and it's nothing but history of music and things like that. So
Oh, neat.
you might
Okay, I would probably.
you might enjoy that.
Yeah, I'd like to check that out.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Um, yeah, so man, there's so much that you have worked on. You've worked with a lot of amazing people throughout the time, like Jim Henson. How was it working with him? I mean, obviously the Muppets were is one of the main things that you are known for. But how was it working with Jim?
Um, Jim was the greatest guy in the world. Uh, Jim was the sweetest. Uh, Jim was incredibly creative. Jim worked harder than anyone I'll ever know.
Mm,
Um, People would say that Jim's a workaholic. I've said it, but that he was a workaholic. I'm a workaholic as well, but I don't think of it that way because work is my joy, as I've mentioned several times on this program.
mm,
And so that was Jim liked to play,
mm,
Um, uh, he brought so much joy to so many people. I'm the person that wrote and drew the Muppets comic strip for newspapers all around the world.
mm,
We were read by 80 million people in the country in the world that has a free press at the time. This is way before computers. I would work on this is the only comic strip in the history of comic strips that if you read the story that I wrote, the joke that I wrote in New York or Seattle, if you were in the Philippines or the Netherlands or Japan or wherever you were in the world, you read the exact same story. That doesn't happen. That never happened in the history of comics. They said it was impossible. Jim wanted it to happen. Myself, and Michael and King Features, we found a way to make it happen. The strip was ran from 1981 to 1986. Um, much, much, much beloved. Jim loved comic strips. Michael Frith, my creative director, who created the designs of many of your favorite Muppets and also designed all the Fraggles and blah, 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 blah. Go look him up. Michael K. Frith, the greatest artist I'll ever know. And
mm,
thank you, Michael, for everything you ever taught me. Um, so, Jim, Michael, Frank Oz, Jerry Jewell, Jim's head writer on the Muppets. Um, they were all incredibly lovely and incredible to work for. I was very young. I was 23 when I auditioned. My audition lasted a year. I was 24 when the comic came out. Um, very young. And the biggest deal in the whole newspaper world was the Muppet Show comic strip, and that was mine. And I shared writing duties with my brother. Came on my brother Brad.
yeah.
Anyway, Jim was very heavily involved in the strip. Approved every single one. Was very loving and very very kind to me. Always made sure that I felt like I was part of the team and everything. And He was an incredible, incredible man. And, uh, I carry on the Muppets uh, for Jim and for everybody that's not with us anymore and those that are. And everyone that grew up on the Muppets and the Muppet Babies, which I had a hand in creating,
Yep.
and Fraggles, which I worked on. Everything that I worked on everything. For Jim. Uh, I knew Jim. The last 10 years of his life, and I absolutely loved him. Saying like, Jim was like a father and a friend to me.
There you go. That's an amazing story. I'm glad I'm getting the chance to hear it. Um, and you probably get asked that question a lot, right? As
Yeah.
well as you probably get asked a lot, what's your favorite Muppet? Do you have a favorite Muppet, or do you share the love equally amongst them all?
Whatever character I'm working on is my favorite at the time, no matter what universe it is, and that has to be because it's the only one that counts. If you asked, if you had a project, if you were the art director for something, and you brought me on, and I said, "Oh, I hate this," or "This is not my favorite," or something, you can see that coming through. So you absolutely love everything that you're working on, and I've always loved everything that I'm working on. My favorite character before I worked for Jim, and so a favorite of mine whenever I would get a chance to work on him, was Rolf. Rolf the dog. Uh,
Okay.
Rolf was the first famous Muppet. Uh, you know, um, Rolf was the first Muppet that had a name that was nationally known. Sam from Sam and Friends was a local hit. Uh, and of course, the Muppets nationally were on Ed Sullivan and The Tonight Show and all of that. But the very first character that had a weekly series of his own with Jimmy Dean, the country artist and actor.
Hmm.
Dean. The Jimmy Dean Show started about 1962, and Rolf the dog was on there. And so Rolf, when I was a very little boy, was the only Muppet I knew his name. So Rolf has a special place in my heart, and so does Kermit, of course. Um, yeah, when I think of Jim, I think of those two characters, Rolf and Kermit. But I think of Jim as Jim too. So, so having a favorite to draw, no. Um, and I love all of them. And because I become all of them when I'm working on them.
Okay. And that kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning was you got to love what you're doing. You got to, with the pieces that you're doing, and you can't just love one, right? And because something's just going to go along the lines where it's just not going to get the same, it's not going to feel the same, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So how do you think the Muppets have stood the test of time with, I mean, ranging from back when it started all the way to 2023?
Well, when I got on board in 1980, the Muppets
Mhm.
was the biggest thing in the entire world. Um, and and then they were, but Jim passed away in 1990. I think that Jim would be pleased that people know the Muppets today.
Mhm.
They've gone like anything does. Even the Beatles, they go through times when they're not as popular, and then they go through times when they're very popular. Right now, the Electric Mayhem have a television show on on Disney Plus that's doing incredibly well. It's called The Muppet Mayhem, and it's a critical hit. It's also one of the highest rated shows on Disney Plus, and it's a wonderful, wonderful show. Oh my God, the Beretta brothers, Peter Lind, these guys are just amazing, amazing, amazing Muppet performers. And if you are a Muppet fan and you haven't watched the show, I really uh, would urge you to. Uh, and the Fraggles are on Apple Plus, and it's called Back to the Rock. Dave Goles is involved. Uh, It's a wonderful, wonderful show. But you'll never have these days what you once had. When seen by the Muppets was the number one television show of the entire year. Okay?
Hmm.
The entire year. It would win. It not only would win its time slot, it would win. It was the most watched show weekly, but that was also, there were three channels, you know, that
Hmm.
TV had back then. So after the Muppets ran in your town, whatever day that was that it ran, because it ran in syndication, so it ran at 7 or 7:30 wherever you were. Um, Everyone would talk about it, because no one wanted to miss the Muppets. Now you have view on demand, and you also have streaming. So you have 1,000 streaming services out there, and everyone can pick and choose and do this and do that. There'll never be another phenomenon in children's and in family and in universal entertainment for every single person, no matter how old or young you are. That is the phenomenon of the Muppets.
That's true. I appreciate the days where you had cable hookups. You had to put tin foil on some pieces to kind of get a reception in. Or like the coat hangers. I could really appreciate those days compared to the streaming services. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but yeah, have times changed, right?
Oh, mm-hmm.
So you also worked with the late great Stan Lee as well.
Oh
I'm a
yeah,
huge Stan Lee fan.
yeah, uh-huh.
I got to hear about that if you don't mind sharing.
Um, yeah, well, I met Stan first in, I think it was 82, 80, maybe 83.
Mhm.
I was doing a comic strip called The Rock Channel for the Des Moines Register Syndicate, and I was signing the contract for it, and they were the syndicate that was running Spider-Man and the Hulk and Conan. They all had comic strips, and Denny, uh, the president of the syndicate, was on the phone. I can't remember his last name right now. Denny Allen. Denny Allen, I think. Anyway, anyway, he was on the phone with. He had just gotten off the phone with Stan, and he said, "Would you like to talk to Stan Lee?" And I went, "Well, yeah." And so I got on the phone with him. He was at his Malibu house at that time, and we chatted for about 20 or 30 minutes. He's an incredible guy. He was a big fan of Jim's. Knew all about my Muppet work, because I was doing the Muppets at the time, and now I was going to do a second comic strip with Greg Walker and my brother called The Rock Town. And so anyway, Stan and I connected at that point. And then a couple of years later, when the studio was big, Stan reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think that uh, Spider-Man and some of the other characters would do very, very well um, telling stories that promoted certain, social skills and morality for little children in picture books, the way that your studio does it so well. You've been working for Jim all these years and everything. Would you do some stuff for me? The people on our board don't believe in the project. So would you draw, Spider-Man and the Hulk and who else was it? X-Men, I think the Inhumans maybe. Um, and do these mock-up books, airbrushed covers, airbrushed uh, double page spreads, and stuff, and do these mock-up books on foam core, and I'd like to take them over to Europe and see if I can sell them. And he says, if I can get enough numbers out there for sales, if we can do the paper that I think we can do on this stuff, Guy, would you help me with this? Because then I can come back and say, well, you can't say no, because we've already sold, 500,000 copies of these things. Um, so I said, sure, Stan, and I did all that. And I don't draw that way. So I got people that were friends of mine. Kurt Swan is the most famous of the people that worked on those. Kurt Swan, the incredible artist of Superman for over 30 years. Um, and however, I did ink. Kurt made a point to say, "Guy, I don't want anybody to ink me but you." And I said, "Sure, sure, Kurt." And I was very honored. Anyway, so Stan got the stuff, and all of that stuff did happen. All those books came out, and so we wound up. The studio wound up doing quite a few books, for Random House and Golden Books and stuff of many of the Marvel characters. Uh, Stan and I had a very warm friendship for well over 30 years. And he would always invite me out to Kamikaze was the name of his con, and then it turned into Stan Lee Comic Con, and it's the LA Comic Con now. And he would always invite me out there. If I could get there, I would. If not, but he would always put me up in the nicest hotel in the entire town, and that's saying something when you're talking about it.
Yes.
And he would give me a gorgeous room. And the thing about Stan that a lot of people may not know is that he was deaf, for much of his latter years. And so um, he would write a lot of notes, which I have several.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed, he would also leave phone messages for you because he could say what he wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
And you could hear that, and that would become sort of a conversation in your own head because Stan couldn't hear. I guess he could, anyway, what was really nice was when I started doing Comic Cons a couple of years ago, um, always running into Stan.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, yeah, he couldn't hear at that point. But it was always a very warm reunion. And Stan was a great storyteller. He would love me to say he's a great actor. He always
Yes.
an actor.
Yes.
And anyway, and he was a lovely friend, a very charitable friend, a very giving friend. I've been very, very blessed. Pretty much everyone that I ever worked with, uh, was a joy to work with. And Stan certainly, he was a joy to work with, but I didn't work with him all that much. We did that one project that was a big deal. And but we were friends, for once you were, once you were, pals with Stan, you were pals forever. I miss
That's
him.
wonderful.
I miss Stan. I
See, I don't have like,
I have a lovely picture of Stan right in my front room.
do you?
Yeah.
That would be something to see one day. Or even if you want to send a picture, you could always send me one, but a picture of it. But yeah, I don't have the relationship with Stan Lee like you do, but watching all the Marvel movies, we always expected a Stan Lee cameo, right?
You always
And
got
then
one.
we always got one, and now we don't get them anymore, right? I think the last one was maybe Black Panther. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but now we try to look for them, see if we might get one, and it's just not there. So we get to enjoy all those memories and the movies and things that we get. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate, but he definitely left an imprint on a lot of us, right?
He lived a very long and fruitful life.
He did.
And
He did.
I'm sure that he's very, very happy to be with his beloved wife.
Of course. Of course. Um, so when it comes to your art, I love the piece that you did. It was the little shop of Muppets, right? Where can our viewers find your art at?
Uh, well, the easiest place is for you to go to the store, and we have a wonderful website, and it's very popular. It's called Guy Gilchrist Production. Uh, and I'm very, very easy to find. You can Google me, and I've been around a really long time. But anyway, we have just click on store, shop. Also, there may be when you, I think we have it. I think it's going where you click on it and it says subscribe to the Muppet newsletter. You should do that. I tell stories every month, but anyway, so go over there and there's original art. There are the Funko Pops that are painted on, as you mentioned, the Little Shop of Muppets, and probably 200 other prints and posters are there. You can order all of that stuff. I sign it for you personally. So that's at the website, aguyGilchristproduction.com, and and then I'm everywhere on social. Everywhere. We're active on what did we just get into? Threads. I think now we're on Threads. But we're on TikTok, Instagram. So look up, Guy F. Gilchrist, F for Francis, or Guy Gilchrist, and just make sure that you see the blue thing that says it's me, because there are people that say they're me in there, but you'll know because we post live stuff and all kinds of stuff. And today we posted a new reel celebrating Dave Gold's birthday. Yay!
Hey, happy birthday, Dave.
Dave, it's the great Dave. You can't have a great Gonzo. You cannot have Gonzo the Great without Dave the Great. So it's
Yes.
so anyway, that's posted there on all the socials and stuff today.
All right, and I'll put all of that down in the description below. Before I let you go, Guy, do you have any advice for anybody that wants to become a cartoonist? Um, you
Sure,
know, that would
sure,
be wonderful.
sure. Um, I've already mentioned that when I was 10 years old, I sent a whole bunch of artwork off to Walter Lantz, who was the most famous animator in the entire world. He's the creator of Woody Woodpecker and Chilly Willy. And he wrote me back and he said, "Dear Guy, you have a lot of talent for a 10-year-old boy. You try very hard. If you keep on practicing and you never ever quit, someday you will be a famous cartoonist. Sincerely, Walter Lantz." And that's what I tell everyone. That's basically distilled it down. If you keep on practicing and you never ever quit, that doesn't mean doesn't mean don't quit practicing. It means don't quit. Don't quit. Whatever that means to you, okay? Don't quit. Your brother, when he was a kid, he drew good, you told me. Yeah, but he
Mhm.
quit. See? He quit. The world didn't quit on him. He quit. It wasn't oxygen to him. What I always tell people is if you want to get into the arts, be sure that it's oxygen to you. Be sure that you can't live without it. And if you can't live without it, then if you keep practicing and you don't quit, it will be impossible for you not to succeed. So if you're not succeeding, look at where you're at, figure out what you're doing, what you're not doing. Okay? Because
Mhm.
there's something that you're not doing. Okay? And then try to remedy and not try, go remedy that. Remedy that. Okay? If you have the love for it and you never quit, you're going to be a hit.
There you go. That's true.
Yes, it
That's
is.
true.
That's why I said it.
Yep. Well, Guy, I definitely appreciate you being on, taking some time to do this with me.
It's
It was
been
wonderful chatting with you, and you giving me so much knowledge, and even correcting me on some things that I thought I knew. So,
Oh,
um,
well,
uh,
and by the way, I'm old enough that I can kind of say anything, and
That's true.
people are going like, oh well, maybe I guess that's true, and so yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you and your audience, and I hope that you'll all stay in touch by heading over to those things that we discussed. Uh, Please, if you see Ashley and Barry, tell them I love them, and I can't wait to come back to Seattle.
Will do. That
And
will
hey,
be
go Mariners, okay?
go Mariners.
Go
Yes.
Mariners.
It's gonna be a good year. It's gonna be a good year. We just gotta clean it up, right?
Yeah, well, you know, every year in baseball is a great year. You can be in the dumps, you can be number one, but you know what? Baseball's the greatest game.
It is. It is.
Anyway, it's been
All right.
wonderful, wonderful talking to you, Adam.
Hey, my pleasure, guy. You have a great day, all right?
You too. God bless you.
Take care. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Archives with Adam and Fab. Be sure to follow us on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcast. And most importantly, thank you so much for your continued support. We're having a lot of fun making these episodes, and we hope you guys are enjoying them as well. Stay tuned. We have a lot more exciting content for you guys coming soon.